Hello everyone. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Today, we enter First Halloween, a true village night where Uri and Tu Tieu filmed the first ever promo. And the yard goes black at action. No neon, no backup, only oil lamps, crickets, and neighbors leaning shoulder to shoulder as tiny flames turn into a living set. We'll watch a blackout become a story of courage, family, and the light you pass hand to hand until love, not wires, powers the scene. If you enjoy it, please subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. 3, 2, 1. The village yard holds its breath. A wet pop skips along the bamboo poles, and every pumpkin face goes dark. Crickets keep singing. Far off, a rice mill coughs and settles. The night smells of wood smoke, damp earth, and fried shallots cooling on someone's porch. "Why did the lights die, Auntie?" a boy asks, toes white with dust from the brick square. "Keep rolling," Tu Tieu says, already stepping into the dark with their baby tight against her chest. "Don't cut." Uri lifts the camera. No marks, no plan, only the throb of wind through the banana trees and the scratch of shoes on brick. His focus hunts for anything that glows. Nothing does. Cut back to late afternoon, the same day when heat lay soft on the orchard and everything still felt easy. On the porch, slices of pumpkin dried on bamboo trays, sugar scent rising like a promise. Tu Tieu ticked off chalk notes on the wall. Lanterns, costumes, candles, spare batteries, niche tags. She underlined the last item twice, then smiled at the baby, who was busy conducting a serious conversation with a wicker basket. Uri came from the commune office with flyers under one arm and approval folded inside his grin. The village head says we're clear. First Halloween promo. I shoot, you run a set. The director, Tu Tieu corrected, pointing at the basket. The baby looked up, cheeks round and damp with drool, and squeaked. Morning built itself. Neighbors strung orange bulbs from bamboo to bamboo. Grandmas rinsed glass cups for oil lamps, lining them to dry in a glittering row. Ginger candy boiled somewhere close. The air was sweet and spicy enough to taste. Uri walked slow, blocking lines, framing, wide over the square, medium on calloused hands, carving careful eyes, close on a blade turning pulp into a grin. He passed by Tu Tieu on a ladder, hair loose, cheeks pink. "Beautiful," he said, before he could stop it. "Save the best shot for last," she answered, twisting a stubborn bulb. "When the whole village lights together." At noon, chopsticks clicked through kitchens. The yard thinned. Under the eaves, Uri reviewed footage on the tiny screen. Soft, trembling, alive. Memory jumped him sideways. His mother cupping an oil lamp during a winter outage, saying, "The flame is weak, but enough to light a meal." He swallowed, checked batteries, frowned at the tall, dark stack of clouds beyond the banana grove. By late afternoon, the breeze had teeth. Paper ghosts worried about their own strings. The pump in the well coughed and fell silent. Someone muttered about the transformer. Uri loaded a fresh card, slipped a spare battery into his pocket, and told himself not to look at the sky again. Night fell like a curtain that didn't quite fit. Edges still glowed orange while the center went deep. The village head lifted his palm. "Ready." Children lifted their pumpkins. Adults lifted their phones. Uri lifted the camera. "Rolling," he said. "Action," Tu Tieu called. The yard blinked to black. There's a strange, long beat where fear tries to step in. But before it can, Tu Tieu moves. She hands the baby to a teenager, holds him close, and sprints for the neighbor's door. A latch clacks. She returns with 3 oil lamps hugged to her ribs, breath quick, eyes bright from the run. She lifts a glass, finds a wick, strikes a match. First flame, thin, blue, not sure of itself. Second, wider, learning. Third, it remembers. The 3 lamps push back a small circle of night. Children lean in as if their faces are flowers. "It's bright," a girl says, surprised by her own happiness. Uri tracks the circle, letting the world arrive by inches. Grandma's cheekbones knifed in honey gold, a boy's missing tooth, the shine on a wet braid, the quiver of a candle that wants to be a dancer. His hands shake. The image steadies anyway. The battery icon slips to 8%, then 7. Wind shoulders through. All 3 flames curtsy. Tu Tieu cups 1 lamp with both hands, hair curtaining the glass. She looks up at Uri through the glow. The look anchors him. He finds his voice. "We're okay," he murmurs through the lens. "I've got you. Keep going." The baby laughs suddenly, silver. It cuts the night like a bell. Grown-ups exhale together, and something unwinds in Uri's chest. "More lamps," someone calls from the lane. Feet patter. A father arrives with 2, a girl with 1, an uncle with 3 along his forearm. Glass kisses glass. Wicks learn fire. Circles of light ripple out until the yard is a quilt of small suns. The planned master shot string lights bursting on. Village cheering belongs to a world that doesn't exist anymore. This is the new scene. Messy, breathing, true. Uri rides it, close on trembling hands adjusting a wick. Whip to a child's wide eyes. Hold on, Tu Tieu, as she shields a flame and smiles at the same time, tender and fierce. The village head finds them by glow. The power station says the transformer tripped. "Could be hours," he whispers, apology on his shoulders. "We're fine," Tu Tieu answers, not taking her hands from the light. "We have enough." Uri hears the word "we" and realizes his throat hurts. The battery icon winks. 5%. He shifts to manual everything focus, aperture, hope, and breathes with the camera. "Tell them the story," he says softly to Tu Tieu, not as a director, not even as a husband, but as someone who needs a reason to believe the rest of the night will hold. She nods. "Circle in," she calls. No pushing. Lamps in the middle. Children outside the glass. They obey the way villages do, by instinct, by love. A ring forms. Tu Tieu lowers to the brick with the baby in her lap and begins. "Once there was a pumpkin who was afraid of the dark until it learned the dark was afraid of being alone." Uri frames her profile, then drops the camera an inch to see her with his own eyes. The glow paints her skin amber. The baby's lashes make small shadows on his cheeks. The wind tries again and fails. Night, for now, agrees to be gentle. He lifts the camera back, swallowing the pressure of that blinking icon. 4%. When all lights die, will love light the set? The question the village printed on the flyers has slid off paper and into their bodies. Uri finds the answer in the way strangers pass lamps hand to hand, in the way a teen grips the baby a little tighter during a gust, in the way Tu Tieu looks at him as if his camera is not what's saving this scene she is. "Don't cut," he tells himself, and doesn't. The first lamp steadies like a heartbeat. The second learns fast. The third gathers the faces toward it as if the flame were a tiny drum calling people home. Crickets stitch the edges of the square. A gecko clicks from the school wall. Somewhere, a motorbike mutters down the lane and fades. The village breathes again. "Lamps in the middle," Tu Tieu says, voice low and sure. "Little ones outside the glass." The aunties shift by habit, guiding children with 2 finger taps on shoulders, the way they do at harvest when baskets must be passed hand to hand. A boy tucks his dusty toes under him and kneels. A girl in a faded red sweater holds her braid like a ribbon and leans toward the glow. Uri sets his knee on a woven mat, camera braced against a chipped step. Manual focus, slow breath, no hurry. The battery icon winks at 3% like a patient firefly. "Tell it," he murmurs. Tu Tieu settles on the mat, baby warm against her chest, and begins in the voice of rainy season nights. Once there was a pumpkin afraid of the dark. It thought the dark was empty, until it learned the dark just hadn't found its friends yet. Soft laughter skims the bricks, the kind that fogs a window for an instant and then disappears. A guest tests the square. Flames bow and rise. The baby reaches, stops an inch from the glass, then pats it with a small, proud sound. A hush moves around the ring, one long shared breath, followed by the good noise of people remembering they are together. Uri steals 2 beats of stillness to trim exposure, counting each beat like a farmer counts seeds. At the far end of the lane, the transformer coughs awake. Up on the bamboo poles, electric bulbs blink twice hard, white, easy. No one claps. No one rushes to plug the yard back into the plane. They glance at it, squint, and look away. Tonight, the square insists on being soft. The village head lowers his lifted hand, boyish grin tugging at his cheeks. "Leave it," he says to no one in particular, and everyone agrees by not moving. Uri frames what changed. Hands learning to shield, thumbnails smoothing wicks, shadows knitting across old cheeks, the faint sheen of lamp fire on a braid, a teacup catching a circle of honey and returning it. He remembers his mother. The flame is weak, but enough to light a meal, and hears the word enough ring inside his chest like a ladle on a pot. "Cut?" the head asks, respectful of work. "Not yet," Uri answers. It is not a command. It is a small prayer. The story finishes the way good village stories do, by folding home to its first line. The lamps keep the ring, and the ring keeps the baby, and the baby keeps his hand to the warm glass like a promise. When Tu Tieu ends, the children breathe out in a single long ribbon of air. Someone in the dark lane whistles his buffalo forward. The village returns to the old rhythm. Careful, grateful, unafraid. They pack by touch. Wicks turned down with thumbnails. Glass chimneys lifted and set to cool on banana leaves. A boy hurries back with an extra lamp that wasn't theirs. He presses it to Uri with both hands, head ducked, and runs off before anyone can thank him properly. Pumpkin cakes are wrapped in newspaper and given to pairs of small hands. A palm broom swishes the brick square in long, tide-like strokes. The night smells of kerosene, fish sauce sleeping in jars, and fried shallots cooling on someone's porch. In the kitchen, they edit at the old table nicked by birthdays and fish sauce. The fan ticks a lazy metronome. Kerosene waits in a corner tin. Uri scrubs the timeline pop. Dark, breath, bloom, then the lift of faces. the ring becoming a family. Tu Tieu's hands making a cave for light. He sounds like aunties lay banana leaves in a steamer. Thin heartbeat from the cloth drum. Frogs stitching the ditch. The tiny click of a wick turned just right. No other music. Nothing that doesn't already belong to the yard. A line? He asks. Only what we saw, she says. He types. Sometimes the light that holds us is the one we pass, hand to hand. They watch once in quiet. The export bar creeps. At the last frame, the battery sighs and dies, decent as a buffalo finding its stall. Uri laughs under his breath. The sound men make when luck finally chooses the honest side. Next evening, a white sheet goes up on the school wall. No stage, no costumes. Benches from the meeting room, bare feet tucked under. The loudspeaker crackles once and then behaves. The projector hums like a summer insect. Faces arrive big and tender. The baby's palm on glass. A braid bright with lamp honey. Mrs. Ba's Areca red smile. A boy's gap-toothed grin. The village refining itself in the dark. Children squeal at their own noses. A grandpa clears his throat, looks at the ground, then up again with eyes wetter than usual. Mrs. Ba whispers, "Oil lamps I've used my whole life tonight, they look like wedding lights." The village head claps Uri's shoulder. "No tricks," he says, voice thick with pride. "Only feeling." Uri answers, "Only what was there?" and feels the words sit themselves like a bowl settling on a table that knows its weight. When the sheet comes down, the square is clean of footprints. A rooster coughs from a far yard. The jackfruit tree keeps the last of the day a little longer than the rest of the world. They sit on the front step, the three of them, in the cooled lamp. "Do views matter for this one?" Tu Tieu asks, cheek to Uri's shoulder, eyes somewhere between tired and bright. "Not tonight," he says. "I film for you, and for him first." The baby crawls to the cooled lamp, hesitates, and lays his palm on the glass as if reminding it what it was. Uri lets the camera hang. There's nothing left to press. "Keep this," he says. They do. They keep it the way villagers keep rainwater in jars quietly, knowing it will be needed without knowing when. The lamp is empty now. Still, the yard holds a glow you cannot switch off. And the answer, the village found, stands plain as a bowl of rice on a table. When all lights die, love lights what matters. Later, when the video leaves the yard and wanders the wide world past strangers, across screens, through nights far from this brick square, it will carry with it the sound of frogs, the patience of banana leaves cooling glass, the steady drum of children learning not to fear the dark. It will carry the small truth they practiced without rehearsal. That light is not a switch or a string, but a habit of hands, a choice made together, again and again, in the middle of an ordinary village night.
Tại một ngôi làng nhỏ ở Việt Nam tổ chức Halloween đầu tiên, Uri và Tử Tiêu được yêu cầu quay phim quảng cáo. Buổi chiều tràn ngập hơi thở của việc khắc bí ngô hơi nước từ kẹo gừng và những dây đèn. Khi đến đoạn hành động, sân tối sầm lại, trẻ em im lặng, gió gập gào. Tủ tiên chạy nước rút tìm đèn dầu, một bước hai bước cho đến khi khoảng trời trở thành một tấm khăn phủ đầy những mặt trời nhỏ. Uri tiếp tục lăn trên một cục pin đang mở dần, đóng khung những khuôn mặt thật. Bàn tay che chắn ngọn lửa, lòng bàn tay em bé trên tấm kính ấm áp. Khi có điện trở lại, dân làng chọn ánh đèn trong một vòng tròn. Tử Tiên kể lại câu chuyện về nỗi sợ hãi tìm bạn. Sau đó, cặp đôi chỉnh sửa lại bàn bếp của họ, xếp lớp ếch và tiếng bấc tách tách và gõ vòng vòng về ánh sáng truyền tay nhau. Họ chiếu nó trên một tờ giấy trắng, tiếng cười những âm hài của bộ phim chứng minh khi ánh sáng tắt, Tình yêu giữ cho khung cảnh thật là sống động hơn, khung cảnh yêu thương hơn và đầy áp tiếng cười hơn.